before Oxford and Cambridge. There was Timbuktu, a city in the middle of the desert that many today think is just a myth or a funny name. But long before the famous universities of Europe were even built, Timbuktu was a center of learning, science, art, and religion. It was a place where books were more valuable than gold. Yes, gold. Imagine a time when students from all over West Africa would walk across the desert just to study in its schools. Imagine thousands of handwritten books stored in great libraries, written in Arabic, African languages, and even Latin. Timbuktu was real and it was brilliant, but they never taught you that in school, while Europe was going through the dark ages, struggling with war and disease. Africa had cities like Timbuktu where scholars were studying astronomy, medicine, law, mathematics, and philosophy. In the 1300s and 1400 seconds, Timbuktu was part of the Mali Empire, one of the richest empires in history. Its ruler, Mansa Musa, was so wealthy that when he traveled to Egypt, he gave away so much gold that he crashed the economy. But he didn't just care about wealth, he cared about knowledge. So he brought back books, scholars, architects, and built schools and mosques. The most famous of them all was the Sankore University. Sankore wasn't just a mosque, it was a full university with lecture halls, thousands of students, and professors who were experts in their fields. Subjects like astronomy, law, grammar, medicine, and theology were taught at high levels, and this was centuries before many European universities offered anything similar. One of the most famous scholars was Ahmad Baba. He wrote over 40 books himself and owned a personal library of over 1,600 books at a time when some European kings didn't even own that many. He wrote about Islamic law, ethics, and history. He once said that in Timbuktu, the love of books was so strong, people would trade a house for a single rare manuscript. But where did all these books come from? Timbuktu was a key stop on the trans-Saharan trade routes. Traders brought salt, gold, ivory, and books. Scholars copied them by hand, passed them down, and even improved on them. They didn't just preserve knowledge, they built on it. They challenged ideas. They asked questions. They were scientists and philosophers, and the libraries of Timbuktu grew and grew. Some families guarded their books for generations, hiding them in wooden boxes, secret rooms, and underground cellars. They knew these books were treasures. When invaders came, when colonial powers arrived, when extremists tried to destroy the past, these families risked everything to save them. Today, over 700,000 ancient manuscripts from Timbuktu still exist. Some are being digitized right now, others are still hidden, waiting. What's inside? Everything from medical guides to astronomy charts, legal texts, poetry, and even discussions about women's rights and leadership. These aren't just African texts, they are world texts. They show us that Africa was not a continent in the dark waiting to be discovered. It was already shining, but you were never told this, you were shown images of poverty and war. You were taught that Africa had no history before colonization. You were told about European explorers discovering places that millions of people already lived in. You were given a map where Timbuktu was just a dot, not a star. But the truth is clear, Timbuktu was a lighthouse of knowledge. A reminder that black history is not just slavery, it is invention, it is education, it is global influence, and it's not just history. The legacy of Timbuktu lives on. Young people today are learning to read the ancient texts, African historians are rewriting the narrative, and people across the world are waking up to the truth. So the next time someone mentions Oxford or Cambridge, remember they were great. But before them, long before them, there was a city in the sands where books were worth more than gold, where scholars lit the fire of knowledge, and where Africa's mind burned bright. That city was Timbuktu. And now, you know,